Hello everybody, thanks for joining me in this workshop to make cherry blossom, beautiful cherry blossom flowers made from felt. So delighted that you're all with me again tonight. So much fun crafting along with you, and I've got a few examples of what we're going to make tonight, including the real thing in one of my favorite little jugs. So this actually, I'm not 100% sure which blossom this is. I don't think it's cherry blossom. This was from a hedge, so I'm not actually very sure which one this is, but it's beautiful. It's a really pale pink color. It's gorgeous. And I also had downstairs some green gauge blossom, which is really lovely. It's like it's a white color with a gorgeous kind of limey green stamen in the inside. So pretty. Tonight we're going to make your kind of typical Japanese cherry blossom, which I absolutely adore. Been really fortunate enough to see it for real in Tokyo and many years ago when I lived in Tokyo for a little while, and it's truly stunning. So it always reminds me of great times back in Japan, and I was so delighted to be able to share that with you. So I've got a few examples of the way that we can make this blossom, including putting it onto a little branch. This is a branch from our garden. We have an old plum tree in the garden, and this branch, it looked a little bit dead actually, kind of just snapped off quite easily. So it's I'm going to pretty it up with some cherry blossoms on the branch. And we've also got the wreath. So the cherry blossom wreath, it's lovely. I've just really just filled about half of the wreath. I think it looks nice when you don't completely fill it. It just looks a little bit more sort of understated. And we've also got, I just wanted to show you, in case you hadn't seen these online. So this is the larger wreath. This is a 20 centimeter wreath, which is the same size as this one. But we've also got online, these are so cute. So this little one here is a 15 centimeter wreath, which is very sweet, and would just be lovely just with a few blossoms round a corner on there. Not round a corner, it's a circle, but you know what I mean. You get the idea. So what we're going to do is we're going to make some blossom, and then of course it will be your choice as to how you would like to display those blossom. You might put them onto a little branch, put them onto a wreath, or simply have them on the wire stems and put them in a little vase. I think they'd look lovely like that as well. So what we'll do is I'll switch to the overhead camera, and then we will just go through all the bits and pieces that you need to make the blossom. Make sure that you've got everything laid out and ready. And I'll try not to skip ahead too fast so that you can craft along with me. What we'll do is we'll make 2 or 3 blossom tonight, and then you'll be, once you've made 2 or 3, you will know how to make them for sure, and you'll be off, you'll be addicted. So let me just move this over. There we go. Look, no detail left untouched, but desperately in need of a proper manicure. Can't wait to get back and have a proper manicure. So what have we got? We've got the template sheet, which is it's not so much templates. I realized that, but I couldn't think of another word to use instead of templates. It's just really because you need to cut these sizes of squares and rectangles, and then we freehand cut the petals and the leaves. So I know a couple of people were wondering if something had gone wrong with their printer. It's absolutely correct that it comes out with these rectangles and squares. So you've got your template sheet, and you don't need a mouse for your computer, but I might need that, so I'll pop that over there. You will need your floristry stems. Now these ones are 22 gauge, so they're quite thin, nice and bendy. And what I've done already is I've cut mine in half, because from each 10-inch stem, you'll be able to make 2 blossom because they only need half a stem per blossom. So I've cut mine up ready. Not that we'll be making that many, but just a little bundle of them there. And then I've cut my pieces of felt. So this colour here will be a little bit different from the colours that you've got in your packs. So this is more of a peachy colour, and I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember what it's called, but it is online. I think it might be called Flesh. It's not a very nice name for it, but anyway, it's that kind of, oh, maybe it's Blush, not Flesh. Anyway, you get the picture. So it's a paler pink. Then we've got our green squares cut up for the leaves, and also for the leaves, but also for this little bit here, which is called a calyx, which is the bit that goes underneath the blossom at the back. And then I've got a few pieces of this gold cut up for the stamen. So that's all my felt already. I've got an extra glue stick. Never know when you're going to run out. It takes quite a lot of glue, this felt flower making. If you've already cut your wire, you won't need these. I just wanted to show you, quite good to have in your craft toolbox, a pair of wire cutters so that you don't blunt your best scissors or even your old scissors. Wire cutters are really good to have for cutting up your wire stems. So I got those, pop them over there. Got my nice sharp scissors. So these are embroidery scissors. We've got a wide selection of small sharp scissors online. So if you're looking for a new pair of little scissors, have a look at our selection because they're all designed for embroidery making. They're all really nice and sharp with small blades. So I've got those ready. Got my glue gun. If you haven't switched your glue gun on, you might want to pop it on now because we know that they take a little while to heat up. So make sure your glue gun is switched on and ready. And finally, I've got this. And there's been great discussion over what can we use for the pink? Do we use chalk? Do we use pens? What can we use? So this is pastel, and I'm going to show you the box because I'm in love with all the colours in that box and I'm determined to find a use for all of them. This is a piece of pastel, but you could use chalk, blusher, felt pen, crayon, colouring pencil, basically anything that's going to give you a little pink hue on the petals. Probably my least favourite would be colouring pencils and crayons because they tend to drag the felt a little bit when you're colouring in, as it were, and felt pens are a little bit, there's quite a lot of dye in them and it can soak into the felt. So this isn't, the pastels and the chalk is really nice, and blusher because you can shade it. So look at this. Okay, Inscribe pastels. They are on Amazon. It wasn't expensive. I want to say £10, maybe £10, something like that. But look what you get in the box. All these colours. That's where the pink was. So I can see uses for lots of these colours. The pieces are quite short, but I know that they'll last ages. So I highly recommend, if you want to invest in your felt flower making career, that you get some Inscribe pastels. There you go. Inscribe pastels, available on Amazon. 60 colours, no less. There we are. So we have had a look, we've checked all our materials. Hopefully you have already cut some shapes out ready to go. And what we're going to do, first of all, is we're going to start off by making the stamen. And we use this gold, it's actually literally called gold felt for this, and a little sharp scissors. And the stamen, if we have a look at the real cherry blossom, let's see if we can just focus that. Oh, it doesn't, there we go. You see the stamen are really, really delicate, and they are a kind of goldy colour. So you're never going to get that amount of detail from felt. But what we can do is we can just cut the stamen as thin as possible. So what we want to try and do is cut it just kind of over halfway, and just taking your time to do this so that you can get them really nice and thin. So I'm going to guess that they're about 1 millimetre apart, and I'm just snipping all the way along, right along to the end. And obviously I'm not going all the way through, otherwise it would chop the whole thing up. And it usually kind of evenly works out by some miracle. But there you go, you got a little fringe, and this stamen is going to be much longer than you need, but don't worry about that, because we're going to trim it down afterwards once it's inside the blossom. When you've constructed the whole flower, then we trim it down to fit, as it were. So we've got that, and we're going to pop that to one side. I'm going to make the petals for the actual blossom. So for each blossom, you will need 5 petals, and they should be roughly square, but I have to confess to cutting some of these, they are the right width, but then I kind of chop them up by eye. So some of them aren't exactly square. Look at that one. Pop that one to one side. So we've got 5 that are nice and square. And what you're going to do with the squares is you're going to turn them into petals that are kind of leaf shaped. And you do this by snipping just the 2 opposite corners. So you hold the square and take your scissors, and you're going to just position the scissors not right down at the bottom corner. You're just going to cut a circle, a semicircle off this corner here, like that. Do one side and then turn it round and do the other side. Now, when you're cutting, a little tip, it's actually easier to move the felt rather than the scissors. So if you kind of keep the scissors in one place and move the felt, you will find it easier, especially when you're cutting really small pieces of felt. So just in about here, and then just move the felt rather than the scissors. So there's the first one, and you're going to do the same for the remaining 4. So hold it by the corner and snip, and then flip it round and snip. Now, if you find that it's a little bit uneven, you can always tidy that up. What you want to try and avoid is having any kind of sharp corners. You want it to be nice and smooth. So it's 2. Here's the third one. So again, you're just cutting off the corners. 3. And 4. And then the last one, 5. There we go. And I'll just get rid of those under the table. I have got a bin down there, honestly. Now let's have a little look. So when we've got our 5 petals, we want to give them a little bit of colour with the pastel or the chalk or the blusher or whatever it is you want to use. And best to do this on a piece of paper. And if you're using blusher or chalk or pastel, you will find it's quite dusty. So you'll see what I do with this. Actually, before we do that, sorry, I missed a step. Go back to your scissors before we put the pink colour on. Go back to your scissors. So what we're going to do, if we have a little look at one of the blossoms, you'll see the shape of the petal at the top. it's got this little kind of bite taken out of it. So each one has a point at one end and a little bite taken out of the other. You could do that after you put the colour on, but it's easier to do it first. So we'll just go back to the petals and take your scissors. And you're just going to, and again, it's easier to move the felt than the scissors. You're just going to cut a little, what I would call a bite out of the top of each one. So there's one. So again, moving the felt round. Two. Doesn't matter if they're all different, they should all be different. You look a lot more natural that way. 3. And 4. And the last one. 5. Okay. There we are. Now we're going to put some colour onto these, and we're going to put the colour from the pointed end going up about halfway up the petal. And I find it easier to put my finger onto the piece that you've just cut out. So put your finger onto the little sort of cut out bite and just take your chalk or your pen or your crayon and just colour in and go up about halfway. And what's nice, if you can kind of shade it so that it's just a gradual sort of deepening of the colour as you get down towards the point. And then if you're using pastel, it will get onto your fingers. Just give it a little blow afterwards just to get the dust off it. So there's one. And the next one. 2. I need one of those aprons that I can wipe my hands on. 3. Such a pretty colour, this one. It's a kind of a bluey pink. And 4. And the last one. 5. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to have a little look at some of the comments. And yeah, it's great. I think that Linda's here. It's funny, on our on my screen in front of me, I can't always see everybody's names, but I've also got, you should see me, I'm surrounded by screens, and it's like a proper TV studio. Not quite. Yeah, Linda is watching. Hi, Linda. It's really nice to see you. Well, you can see me. I can't see you, but it's nice that you're here anyway. It's great that you're here. Thank you. Okay, we've got our 5 petals and we've got some colour on all of them. And what we're going to do now is we're going to make the little bit of greenery. I wonder if we can see it on one of these. Might be a little bit. Oh, it's so tiny. So underneath each blossom, there's a little bit of greenery. They're not leaves exactly. It's called a calyx, and it is the bit of the plant that would protect the bud before the bud opens into flower. And it is a kind of, it's like a star shape. And here are a couple that I made earlier, just to show you what we're aiming for. And you need 1 per blossom flower. Now, these are not the easiest bit of this project, I have to say, but I don't want you to worry if they don't look perfect. And you've got plenty felt, so you can practice just, you know, until you get them just right. It's taken me quite a long time to get them to look this nice and even. So please don't worry if they don't look, you know, as nice as you would want them to first time round. What you're going to do is you're going to take one of the pieces of green that you have cut out for the leaves. So they're all the same size, and you're going to turn this square into a circle. And you're going to do that by doing exactly what you did for the petals. You're going to cut off each corner. And again, you're going to move the felt rather than the scissors. So position the scissors and just move the felt round and then turn. Next corner, chop. And the next one, cut. And the last corner, cut. So it's not a perfect circle, but it's good enough. So we'll do that again another couple of times. It'll give you a chance to have a bit of a practice as well. So you're not cutting a circle out of the whole piece of felt. You're only cutting off the four corners, which will help you to make a circle. So we just get our scissors just across the corner and snip. And then the next corner, 2, 3, and 4. There we go. Should do one more, just so you've got a little bit extra time for practicing. Oh, that's a bit of a rectangle, that one. So I think I'll just take another one. Okay. One corner, 2, 3, and 4. There we go. Not too bad. All right. That's the easy bit. Okay. So we are going to now cut. We're going to cut some slits into this, and we are going to make 6 evenly spaced as you can manage. They will never be perfect, but let's just see how we go. So we're going to cut 6 little slits into this, but we're not going to go all the way into the middle of the felt. We're just going to go in about, I think that's probably, I'm going to guess that that's about 6 millimeters, roughly. So we're just going to snip here. I'll show you. And then we're going to flip it over and do another slit directly opposite. So you started off with 2 right opposite each other. And now you want to make 2 on this side and another 2 on this side. And getting them even, you just really have to judge it by eye. So I'm going to pop 1 there and 1 there. And then I'm going to flip it again towards me and do the same on the other side. So 1 there and 1 there. So you've got this circle with 6 little cuts in it. So let's do that again with another one. So we're going in. Now, if you've got, so we used to do this a lot actually when we were making jewellery with the pliers. We used to take a black Sharpie and make a little mark on the what are they called? The arm, it's not the arm, that bit of the pliers. So that you could always make your loops the same size. Linda will remember this from bead shop days. But you could do the same with your scissors. And I don't know if you can see that I put a little mark with an orange Sharpie on the blade of the scissors just there. And that was to help me to get my the slits the same size each time. So by doing so, I'm just going to go up to the orange mark on the scissors each time, see if the light can catch it. So 1, and then flip it over and do another one directly opposite, and then turn towards you, and then 2 on this side. So 1 and 2, and then flip it towards you, and 3 and 4. Okay. How are you getting on with this? please do leave a comment. I can see your comments. I just can't always see. I can't always see who you are. I can see that somebody's just blown all their petals off the table. I'm sorry about that. Hold on to it while you're blowing the dust off them. That's quite funny. Let's just have another practice at cutting these. So yeah, Gina says you could always fold it in half after the first 2 cuts have been made, and that would make it even, and that is a really good idea. So if you can, absolutely do that if you've got really nice sharp scissors and they'll go through 2 bits of felt at once. Sometimes it's tricky because if your scissors aren't really sharp and you're only cutting a tiny bit, it's quite tricky to get through both pieces. But that's a really good idea, Gina. So 1, and then flip it towards you, and you do 1 on the other side, and then your 2 in here, and then flip it back towards you, and then 2 on that side. There we go. Now we have to turn these circles into little stars like this, and you can see, can't you, how that could nicely translate to a part of a strawberry as well as giving me ideas. Anyway, I digress. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to cut a little slit or a little triangle out of each one of these. It doesn't matter where you start. You're going to take your scissors. So there's a slit that you've already cut, and you're going to take your scissors and you're going to snip a little triangle that way, and then turn it round. So I'm going anti-clockwise, and I'm going to cut a little triangle there. Keep turning it. 3, 4. So you get this nice kind of, it's a bit like a windmill effect. 5, and then the last one, 6. And what you want to do now is flip it over towards you and cut a little triangle on the other side, as it were. So you're going to create points. So you're going from the left-hand corner and snipping up like that, and then turn and cut. 3, 4. Good. Try and cut it all the way up so you don't end up with little fluffy bits in the corner. 5 and 6. And hopefully you end up with something like that. Okay, it is tricky. It is tricky, but it is so worth persevering with this. It's just, and the more you practice, you'll find it's like muscle memory. You just kind of know where to put the scissors, but it is, I do admit it is quite tricky to start with. So let's do another one. So again, it doesn't matter which one you start with, you're going to cut a little triangle out that way. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, and then flip it towards you. Flip it directly over, and then go from the left-hand corner right up into the other corner, so that you're creating these little stars, little points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the last one, 6. Now, if you're finding that your points are all different sizes and you've ended up with some that are really thin, Heather, she says she's never cut such a wonky star. Yes, but I understand why, because if you start off with your initial 6 slits around the circle, and if they're not quite even, then they will result in something that, you know, some of these will be really thin, some of them will be really fat, they'll all be all over the place. So it's trying to get this 6 slits evenly spaced to start with is a big help. Okay, so let's do one more, just because I've got this one already cut. So let's go 1, 2, 3. I think this one might be a little bit wonky. 4 and the little fluffy bit in there. Sue says she's just discovered her superpower is that cutting stars out of felt. I need to see them. That's so funny. Sue, I'll look forward to seeing your creations later. And then, yeah, flip it over and go from the left-hand corner up to cut your points. 2, 3. Be very good at counting to 6 at the end of this. Look, this little one, there's a tiny one. There we go. And I made a right old mess here. So let's just get rid of these. That wasn't very well planned out. Move the petals over. There we are. There we go. So now that we've got our petals and we've got the calyx, what we're going to do, actually one more thing that you need to do with the calyx is you just need to make a little hole in it, and the hole is for the wire stem to go through. The best way to make a hole is just to fold it in half and to take your scissors and just to cut just snip with the tips of your scissors, and that you should end up with a little hole in the middle. Excuse me. Just snip a little hole. Just be careful just to use the very tips of the scissors, otherwise you might end up cutting all the way through from top to bottom. Okay, so we'll do that, and I'll do that for one more as well. So just fold it in half and just the tips of your scissors make a little hole. And there we go. Okay, so now it's time to start. Once we've got all our bits together, so there's a stamen and the calyx and the 6 petals, the 5 petals, we'll start putting everything together. So the first thing to do is to attach the stamen to the wire stem. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a glue gun. And now I do need to give you the health and safety chat. You know, the glue guns are really hot, as you must have discovered if you've been making felt flowers. Very hot. The glue is very hot. The end of the glue gun is really hot as well. And because the cherry blossom is quite fiddly, you are more likely to get a little bit of glue on you, so please be careful. Okay. I'm going to start with a blob of glue just there. So it's not on the fringy bit, and look, that's a bit delicate and it's just come off. It doesn't matter, it's all going to be folded up. So a blob of glue on the uncut end, if you like, and I'm just going to lay the end of the wire stem into the glue, and I'll fold it over, but I just want to kind of let it dry. I'm not going to start rolling it up until it's dried a little bit. Now, you know, with these glue guns, you get these kind of long strings of glue, which can be a little bit annoying. The trick to not getting lots of glue strings, I mean, you will still get them, is to move the glue gun away quite quickly. After you've applied the glue, move the glue gun away quickly, and then it doesn't have a chance to start drying in mid-air, as it were. Okay, so now the stem is attached to the stamen. We can start rolling it up. But I want to apply a little bit more glue along the bottom here, so that when I'm rolling it, it's all going to stick like that. And of course, when you're using a glue gun, you can control the amount of glue that's coming out of the end. You don't need to pull the trigger all the way in every time you use it. If you just be very gentle on the trigger, you will get less glue coming out. So just experiment with that a bit, because, you know, I think that's the thing that goes wrong for some people. They just end up with far too much glue. Okay, we have a stamen on the end of the stem. And what we're going to do now is we are going to we are going to glue the petals on. So each petal is going to get a little bit of glue on the opposite side to the colour. Okay, so you don't want to be gluing on the bit that you've coloured in. I know that seems obvious, but just, you know, other side. And it's the pointed end that gets the glue. So a little dab of glue on the pointed end. And then you're just gluing it. I've just told you exactly the wrong thing to do. I'm so sorry. So rewind, scrap that. You can actually just pick the glue off. Okay, and in fact, you won't see, if you have already got as far as putting the glue onto that side, you won't see it because it's going to be covered by the calyx. Okay. Take two. You're going to put the glue on to the bit that you have coloured. And that is going to just rest against the stamen. There's a long glue stick of that. There we go. So of course, when the petals unfolded like that, you can see the pink, the dark pink on the inside. So there's one. Okay, so your next challenge is to try and get these 5 petals round the stamen sort of more or less evenly placed, and that is quite tricky as well, but again, it's something that comes with practice, and it doesn't matter if it's not exactly even. So your next petal, again, a little bit of glue just right at the tip, and this time you're going to place it so that it's slightly overlapping the one that you just put on. So again, it's going onto the base of the stamen, but you can see if I turn it over, it's slightly overlapping the first one that you put on. So there's 2, and you want to just continue round. There's number 3. So if your glue's quite hot, and these little glue guns, they do get quite hot, which is, it's not so good if you burn yourself, but it is good in that you get a little bit more time before the glue actually sets. You know, if you need to reposition something, you get a little bit more time to move it around. So there's 3 petals. And the 4th one, a little bit on there. So each one is overlapping the one in front of it, so that you should end up with a space that's hopefully just the right space for the last petal. So the 5th one. A little bit on the end. There we are. So you can see mine are not, they're not completely evenly spaced, but I think it's all right. I think I'll get away with it. Unstick my fingers from the bottom of it. Now. So the stamen, as you can see, if I turn that slightly to the side, the stamen are kind of popping out of the top of the petals, but we have plenty of felt. So if you want to leave them like that, you can. But what I would normally do at this stage, because I just think they're a little bit too long, is just get my sharp scissors and give them a little trim. So just literally cut through the whole lot at once. But it's entirely up to you, but because the measurements allow you that, it's kind of extra length, you can trim them if you like. Okay. So your next step is to thread the calyx with the little hole in it that you made earlier, and that is going to go onto the stem, and it's going to come all the way up, and it's actually going to just very neatly cover all of the joins in the bottom of the blossom. But what you want to do before you move all the way up is just apply a little bit of glue all the way around, and then move the calyx up, and glue it into place. So just move each of the points up so that they're attaching to the blossoms. And what you will find to the petals, you find that you probably want to just get in there with your glue gun and add a little bit more glue in places. Just to make sure that they're all attached. Or if you want to leave one or two loose, it's fine. It's a more sort of natural look. And we'll go and pick off any little bits of stray glue. Now, what I haven't done with the cherry blossom is I haven't used the florist's tape to actually cover the stems. So the reason for that is because when I've attached them to the wreath, and I'll just show you how that's done, I've literally just held the blossom against the wreath and then used the extra wire to push it through. So these grapevine wreaths are great, so you can push the wire through a gap in the wreath, and then just wrap the wire tightly around the wreath, so you don't need to have the floristry tape on it, because you can't really see it once it's on the wreath. Likewise with the blossom on the branch here. Let's see if you can see. There's the wire, but it's kind of hidden behind the flower there, so you can't see it. So I haven't used the tape to wrap that. If you didn't have a branch like that, what you could do is you could wrap them around. Let's see if I've got a piece of thicker floristry wire. So this is the 18 gauge. So you could attach them to this, and then you could wrap the whole thing with the dark brown floristry tape and give it a few bends and twists, and then that would look a little bit like a branch. There's nothing, I don't think you can beat the real thing, but you could use the thicker wire if you wanted to and wrap it. So I'm going to make another one. I'm going to have a sip of my coffee. I need to show you my mug actually. So there's nothing, oh, I don't know, I don't think I can see it because I'm up. No, I can, look, there you go. So there's never anything with my name on it, and I never get called Joanne really, but that is my name, Johan. But there's never anything with my name on it. And my sister found this, I think in Norway actually, and brought it back for me from holiday. So it's a bit special. I think it's the only thing I've ever had in my life that's got my name on it. So let's make another cherry blossom. Okay, so let's start again with the stamen piece. So your little piece of gold. I'll go a little bit faster with this one. So we're going to snip little fringe. Each snip is about 1 millimeter apart all the way along, and then pop that to one side. And then we're going to make our 5 petals by just snipping off the corners. So corner and then flip around to the other side. And then the next one. And flip it over. And number 3. And yes, I'm going to show the leaves. I'm going to make one more blossom and then we're going to do the leaves. The leaves are incredibly easy, so I was leaving those till to last. So we'll make this one and then we'll do the leaves, which are basically what I'm doing here with these petals. So the last petal there, and then we'll just take the little notches out of the top. So again, we're moving the felt rather than the scissors. 3. It's a big chunky one. It's funny how some of them end up much bigger than others. And the last one, okay, 4. And then with my pastels, I am going to hold my finger on the end with the notch and colour in the pointy end, just coming up about halfway. And there's 2, 3, and then the calyx, well, we did those earlier, so remember the calyx was cutting out the circle by cutting off all 4 corners and then making 6 evenly spaced slits in the felt. So we've got the stamen and the calyx and our 5 petals. So let's attach the stamen to a piece of wire. So a little bit of glue on the non-fringed end and just hold the wire on. Let's fold it over and just allow it to dry. And then start to roll it up. A little bit more glue along the edge here just to keep it down. And you will always, by the time you rolled it up, there's always a little bit of glue that wants to escape at the end there, a little blob, but it's fine. You can just take that off with your fingers, wait till it dries, and then you could even cut it off with your sharp scissors. So there's our stamen. And then we're going to attach our petals. So let's get it right this time. Going to put a little dab of glue on the pointy end of the coloured side. And it goes just at the end of the stamen. So there's the first one. So it's not wanting to focus very well. There we go. And 2. So I have tried putting these on in different ways to see if it made it any easier for spacing. You know, I've tried putting one on and then putting the other one on kind of directly opposite and then trying to fit the rest of them in. And it's not that easy doing it that way either. So really the best way is to just put one on and then put the other one on next to it and just to kind of go around in a circle. So there's 3. Who's got glue on their fingers? I certainly have. And 4. And just enough space for the last one. There we go. And the 5th one, the last one is actually the trickiest, usually, just to fit into that space. There we go. And then at this point, you can decide if you want to trim the stamen down. So I normally like to do that, just get the scissors and just give them a little trim. And then with your calyx, which has already got the hole, pop the stem through. And then you want some glue all around the base. You can be a little bit more generous with the glue around the base there. And then move the calyx right up. Watch your fingers because the glue will still be hot. And then just push those up into place. And if you end up with blobs of glue that then dry and they look a little bit ugly, you can usually get the tips of your scissors in there and just trim those away. There we go. So there we have 2 made quite quickly. I'll just show you, and then we'll make a couple of leaves, just show you how I would attach to this wreath. So this is a smaller 15 centimeter wreath, and I would just literally just poke it through a gap, pull it through, and then use the extra wire just to firmly wrap it round a couple of times and just push it into place. And that's all it needs, just to keep it held on there. Put the other one on as well. And a little wreath like this, you wouldn't need to make very many blossoms. It makes such a nice gift for somebody. So just push it through a gap, pull it down, and then with the extra wire, just firmly wrap it round. Here we go. I can see these looking gorgeous on headbands and hair clasps, even a little a wristband, a little bracelet. They would look so sweet, you know, for flower girls and bridesmaids, and gosh, yeah, endless possibilities. Now, leaves. Let's make a couple of leaves. Really easy. Just take your squares of green felt, and exactly the same way that you made the petals, just cut the corners. So you just snipping one side and then the opposite side. And there you have a leaf shape. And then on this one, so again, just one side, flip it over, and then the other side. I'm just watching. I can see the video quality is not very great. I hope you can see. It's maybe been coming and going a little bit. So apologies for that. Okay. So with the leaves, you don't want just a flat leaf shape. You want to give it a little bit of texture or a little bit of shape. So what to do, and this is, yeah, please watch your fingers, is you want to just pop a little bit of glue into one of the points. So it doesn't need much, just a little bit of glue. And then with your finger and thumb, just fold it and hold it closed until it dries, which is only a few seconds. Okay, there you go. Now that's one way of doing it. Okay, the other way, of course, is you could use a wire stem, and again, put a little bit of glue onto one corner and take your wire stem, and again, I'm just using these really nice thin 22 gauge ones, and pop your end of your wire in there, and again, being a bit generous with the glue there, but just nip it closed and just hold it until the glue dries. I'm just going to remove some of that glue. There we go. So the advantage of having the leaf on the wire stem is that now you can wrap it around the wreath if you wanted to. So you've got that extra bit of wire there. But what I've done on this one is I've just glued them into place. So I've literally just, if we do it with this one, just put a little bit of glue. So it's better to decide where you're going to put it first of all. so that you're not trying to figure it out once you've got the glue on it and the glue is sort of rapidly drying. So if I'm just going to pop it in there. So I'm just going to put some glue along the back of it. You can be quite generous with the glue. And then just position it. If it's not quite making contact, you can always use the point of your closed scissors just to push it into place. There we are. Okay. So anything else? Is everybody okay? So any questions? Any issues? Did anybody find it really tricky? I hope you all really enjoyed it. It is much more tricky than doing something like the daffodils, where you've got much bigger pieces of felt to deal with. Let me come back. Now I need that computer mouse. There we are. So I had loads of fun, and I would like to show you what's coming next. So we already had a date put up for these, and we're actually just waiting. We always just seem to be waiting for felt, but it's on its way. It's on its way. Don't worry. So this is the lavender bunch, which is what I did when I did this. I thought, you know what, I'm just going to use all the colours of purple that we have and see. And I think they look really good, actually. And I've had lavender in this kind of pinky purple colour before. So when we put the pack together, I'm going to put all of the different colours of purple and lavender shades into the pack so that you can make them in all of these different shades. So that is next week's. And then the one that we don't have a date for, and I'm going to make a confession about this because nobody noticed. Well, maybe if anybody noticed, you were all too kind to say. So these are violas. So they're not pansies, they're violas, and they're so sweet. And my first confession is that I picked a viola from somebody's plant pot in the village. It was outside their front door and it was only one, but I did pick it and take it home so that I could make these. And I did make them all. And then I put all the flowers on upside down and nobody noticed. And I went out for a walk the following night and I looked at the lady's plant pot and I saw the violas, and now they're the right way round. But if you look back at the photograph on Facebook, you will see that all of the dark purple was at the bottom and the pale was at the top, and that's not how they go. So anyway, I'm sorry that I pinched a flower from somebody's plant pot, but it was all for you guys. Right, brilliant. Thank you so much for joining me to make some cherry blossoms. I can't wait to see you in the group, can't wait to see your finished blossoms, and hopefully join you next week as well to make some lavender. Okay, have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.